I'm not sure how long it'll let me record videos, but I didn't want to find out in the middle of chapter 21. Trip is still sleeping on my lap, but it wasn't much different now. All right. How was rehearsal? My mom asked when I got in the car. I didn't even say my usual fine. I just stared out the window into the dark. I felt terrible last night hearing how upset you were about your dad, Mom said as she pulled out of the parking lot, especially because partly it was my fault. I made a terrible decision. For a second, I thought she was going to say something like I never should have let your dad go. But I knew what her terrible decision was. I figured it out on the phone today. It was a no-brainer once I realized my dad wouldn't have sent those nice emails. I deceived you, Violet. I thought I was doing a good thing at the time, but I wasn't. And then it snowballed. Her voice cracked like a sixth-grade boy's. I have to stop it before it gets any more out of the hand, even though you're going to be furious with me, as well you should. I nodded. For the first time ever, Mom was telling me I should be furious with her. I had been furious with her many times before when she hadn't told me to be. I had been furious with her many times before when she hadn't told me to be. Tonight I was mad at her, but not really furious. It may be hard for you to believe, Mom said in an even crackier voice, but I love you more than anything. It actually wasn't hard to believe, but I still kept staring out the window. Just because you love someone doesn't mean you can't do something wrong to them. Something very, very wrong. I wanted to make things easier for you, she said. Ha! I muttered, not in a ha-ha laughing way. Like when you were little and I'd kiss a scrape on your knee and tell you that would make it better. I'm not little, I said, and I was done muttering. And kisses don't make scrapes go away faster. They could even infect the scrapes and make them worse. I have no excuse for what I did. It's awful. I turned to her. You pretended you were Dad and sent me emails. She let out a gasp. You knew? I figured it out today. She pulled over and parked at a curb, even though we were only a few blocks from our house. I stared at Mom's nervous face, at her hands gripping the steering wheel of the parked car when I spoke. There wasn't much anger in my voice, about 15% anger and 70% sadness and 15% curiosity. How did you even do that? Did you hack into Dad's email account? I went into his account after you told me you emailed him. I felt so bad for you. I know I made things worse, but at the time I thought I was helping. I shook my head. Yeah, big help. I'm sorry, she said again. So you read Dad's personal emails, I pointed out. I read his junk email account, the one he gives out to salespeople, so his real address doesn't fill up with spam. This is the one on all my school forms. His junk email is the only one I know about. Oh, Violet, Mom said, her tone now pitying. Pitying. I looked out my window again so she wouldn't see me blinking back tears. How did you know Dad's password? He always uses the same password. Violet number 1 sign 1. If I'm the number one in his life. Ha! I said. I'm sorry, Violet. It was stupid and wrong of me. Your apology is about as useful as a kiss on the knee. I glared at her, but it was too dark for my glare to hurt her. Anyway, she already seemed pretty hurt. I pictured her kissing my knee after I fell off my bike, and the first day I rode it without training wheels. As I pedaled, Dad had held onto the back of the bike, steadying it and promising he wouldn't let go. But after a few minutes, he gave the bike a push and let go. I'd ridden down a small slope that seemed like the Alps, panicked and fallen down. Mom had yelled, "Why did you do that? You nagged me to teach her to ride a bike," Dad had complained. "And when I do, you scream at me." Mom had brought me inside, washed my knee, and kissed it. And her kiss did seem to make my knee feel better. The next day, she'd driven me and my bike to a flat, grassy park. and she walked beside me for hours, holding onto the bike as I pedaled. She did it again the next day, and eventually, with my say-so, she'd let go, and I learned to ride. I cleared my throat and said, I finally got Dad to talk to me today. Oh, her voice was a fake calm. All I had to do was call him a quadrillion times and fill up his voicemail. He called back to tell me to leave him alone. Mom mumbled something that sounded like a very bad word, and then she took a big long breath and said, That's his loss. I nodded. I didn't feel mad at her anymore. Violet, what happened with me and him is not your fault. I know. You keep telling me that. Because it's true, Mom said. I know, I said automatically. Except now I believe it. What happened was hardly Mom's fault either. I realized it, as it was mostly because of Dad. He stopped thinking of anyone else, or maybe he never did that much in the first place. If Dad was so sick of Mom's nagging, why did he just put away his shoes for once, or go to the market when he promised he would? And wasn't it better to have a parent nagging you about doing well in school than one who wouldn't even give your school his real email address? Maybe a lot of what Dad called nagging was actually Mom trying to help our family. I suddenly saw all this and wondered why I hadn't seen it before. I love you, Mom, I said. I love you too. Mom leaned over and put her arms around me. I promise not to lie to you anymore or keep secrets. I sat up straight. So tell me where Dad's been hiding. Oh, Violet, Mom sighs. He's renting an apartment at the Shoreham Arms. But that's only a few miles from his house. It's where he'd taken me to sneak into the pool. I let out a little whimper. I'd always thought math could solve my parents' problems and make us a true family. But it's impossible to bring two people together when one of them refuses to be part of the equation. Mom wrapped her arms around me tighter, and I pressed myself against her. Will Summers. Oh, this is a letter. Will Summers, Shoreham Arms apartment, 242 Marigold Way, number 6, Cypress, California, 90630. Dear Dad, Mom gave me your address. Don't worry. I won't be writing you, calling you, or emailing you again. I am not writing you to try and get you and Mom back together or remind you about my play. I just wanted to tell you that I might not be eager to talk to you when you're ready to talk to me. A lot has happened with me, school-wise and friend-wise, and me getting wise, or wiser at least, wise enough to know what you're doing is very unwise. Well, take care of yourself, though no one needs to tell you that. Sincerely, Violet. We got room for another chapter. At lunch the next day, I stood by the entrance of the cafeteria. First, I looked at Mackenzie. She was sitting by herself in our usual spots, her shoulder hunched, staring at her phone. When I looked at Allie, she sat in the middle of the cafeteria with Zahra Carahill, who was even more beautiful than her beautiful name. Zahra modeled for a magazine ad and had been in a commercial for Orange County's best ice cream. This year, she started wearing a hijab, which showed off her perfect cheekbones and gorgeous dark eyes. I wondered if Zahra had gone on dates like Allie supposedly had. If I were brave, I would have marched to their table and plopped myself between them. But I was not brave. I did not march or plop. Except I wasn't Cowardly Violet anymore either, so I slowly walked to their table, thinking about what to say when I got there. Hi, mind if I sit here? Or maybe. Allie gave a small wave. I waved back like I was stranded on an island, and she was the first sign of life I'd seen in a week. I dropped my stupid arms, but kept walking over. When I got near her, Allie said, Hey, Violet, do you know if ancient bowling alley in the city by City Hall? Oh, Hey, Violet, do you know if that ancient bowling alley by City Hall is still open? Had she called me over for that? Because Zahara and I were talking about going bowling. Do you like to bowl? I love to bowl with my parents. Used to, anyway. Mom was all about the technique. Take 3 steps, bend your knee, shake hands with the ball, but Dad would just run over and hurl his ball. I was always Team Dad. Hey, Trippy. That's okay. Trippy. He's not going to come. It's okay. I know you don't like Zemo. Jeez, Mr. Trips. I'll finish this up and we're going to go to bed because you sound cranky. Because Zahar and I were talking about going bowling. Do you like to bowl? I loved to bowl with my parents. Used to, anyway. Mom was all about the technique. Take 3 steps, bend your knee, shake hands with the ball. But Dad would just run over and hurl his ball. It was always Team Dad. I was always Team Dad at the bowling alley. It was more fun to throw the ball down the lane fast and wild. Violet, Allie said. I think that bowling alley's still open. I went there a few months ago, I said. Good, let's go bowling once the play is over. Cool, I said. I love Dad's way of bowling, but I wish I'd also let Mom teach me so I wouldn't embarrass myself with Zahar and Allie. Hi, I'm Zahar, Zahar said, smiling her big model smile. I know, you're in my math class. I mean, not that you're expected to know everyone who's in each of your classes. It's like 30 or 35 people times 6 classes. Could I possibly babble any more? Yeah, that's like 195 people, Zahar said, actually seeming interested. I nodded. Except some people are in more than one of your classes, right? So you'd have to subtract the duplicates, but it's still a lot. Start with 180 to 210 people, or 195 on average, like you said, then subtract about, yes, I could possibly babble more. A lot more. I pressed my teeth together and shut myself up. I bet you get A's in math, Allie said. She turned to Zahar, and Violet's really smart. I shrugged, but I did get A's in math. With Miss Merriweather's supplemental stuff, I'll have to work for my A, but so far, I was really enjoying it. Sorry I didn't recognize you, Zahar said. I'm awful with faces. I think I might have this disease called face blindness I heard about last year, or more like face nearsightedness or something. Plus, I hardly ever pay attention in math class. Zahar, this is Violet Summers, Allie said, because I'd been too busy blabbling about calculating math students to tell Zahar my name. Oh yeah, Zahar said. You have a big part in the play, right? I nodded. My parents wouldn't let me try out. They said I shouldn't do acting unless I get paid for it. She sighed. You're the Tin Man or the Tiger or something. The Tiger? If Mackenzie had heard that, she'd say Zahar was so dumb. And when she saw her commercial, Mackenzie had said, You mean Orange County's worst ice cream? I gazed at Mackenzie and caught her looking at me. She quickly stared down at her phone. Maybe she called it Orange County's worst ice cream because she was jealous. She was probably jealous right now. I turned away from her. The tiger? Allie asked with a smile. Zahar, there's no tiger in The Wizard of Oz. Zahar shrugged. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. There's no bear either, Allie said. They both laughed. Hey, can I sit with you guys? I asked, which would have been a very brave thing to do if I hadn't been standing by their table for so long already. Oh, yeah, sit, Allie said. Sit, Miss Tiger, or Miss Bear, Zahar said. Grrr! I raised my hands and shaped them like bear claws, and we laughed together, and I plopped down between them. We'll leave that there for tonight. Good night, Poppets.